Hello there, TCK Summit. My name is Kyle Jeffers, and I would like to thank the Chain School for inviting me to be a part of this talk with you all today. Just a quick background on myself. I am from California. I grew up in Silicon Valley, which is South Bay, south of San Francisco by about an hour, San Jose to be exact, but more or less grew up in the entire Bay Area through my sport and playing basketball and a lot of travel. My family everywhere, all around the Bay. So more or less that is my home. I spent most of my childhood in the Bay Area before going to university. As I was growing up in California, I was lucky to be a part of a culturally diverse neighborhood, and I went to school with a lot of different cultures. Mainly everybody is from America, but back home, everybody has a different ethnicity. You know, you have your Chinese Americans, your African Americans, your Vietnamese Americans. You have your European Americans, wherever they're from, Europe of some part, England, whatever, wherever their background is from. Yet they all have an American accent. So it's very interesting growing up in California because you are around so many different cultures and ethnicities. Yet everybody all pretty much thinks the same, acts the same, talks the same, laughs about the same stuff. So even though you think you're, around that cultural diversity, it's really quite an eye opener when you leave the bubble and you actually get into real culture. So I would say that yes, I did grow up around, many different cultures and even languages. However, I would not say I was too much of a global citizen when I was younger. However, as I grew up and went to university and started learning more about the world, I was able to start to identify more as a global citizen. And even as a child, I would always want to try to do some kind of initiative or program that would maybe save the world, so to speak. This is what I was thinking as a boy. I'm trying to do or be a part of some kind of bigger plan and do more than what I was currently doing as just a child. And I don't know what drew me to this kind of thinking, but it is something that has continued to be with me, and I've identified completely with it, and it resonates with me nearly every day. Of just trying to be a better citizen, and or in this case a global citizen, because especially nowadays, and being around the world and living in many different places now, you can't just identify with one particular place. It is we share this world together, and I do appreciate the fact of what the Chain School is trying to do, and trying to outreach and make this a bigger topic, because a person like myself in California, that wants to experience and know more about the world, but not necessarily have the access to do so, can now do so with certain things like this. So yeah, it's been a great experience, learning more about the world, and especially making friends all around the world, and learning so much more about the different cultures that I grew up with, slightly, but now having more in-depth approach and welcoming, because everybody is so friendly and nice once you get outside the world. It's not as scary as one thinks it might be before you step into it, especially if you're coming from America, where we're very ethnocentric, so to speak, and not the most open to new experiences and or ideas at a greater level. Yes, you have your exceptions always, but me personally did not know much about what was going on. So to bring it back to the topic of what I'm here to discuss, which is mental health and self care, is quite interesting because I'm an athlete by nature. I grew up playing basketball. I grew up around the athletic field. I had a lot of interaction with all sports, especially in my university days at Oregon State University. I played in the Pac-10 when I was a Pac-12, where you had your big time university schools, where they're all very ethnically different. And I went to Oregon, which more so was not the most diverse university as opposed to a UCLA or USC, even a Stanford or a California Berkeley, or even in Seattle where you have Washington University, where these bigger cities, these bigger universities have more cultural background to them as opposed to my white dominated university. However, there's still quite a few of cultures running around, but just not as many. So now fast forwarding about 10 years since I've graduated, at least college, almost university now. Wow. This topic on having a global mindset and reaching out to a bigger community outside of your hometown and or place of your place of residence, wherever that may be, is now becoming a more hot topic because it is important to start thinking about other aspects of the world, and when you start to reflect upon yourself, it kind of gets a bit challenging, especially if you take it upon yourself to want to go and do more. So, from a mental standpoint, you have to be quite strong. You need to know what you want. You need to uh, have the want and the desire to want to do more, because it is very draining. I've been now a part of so many different kind of extracurricular groups from university, when I was working with the athletic community and trying to bridge the gap between the college town around in Corvallis, where we tried to bring the community closer together with the sports world and do this kind of outreach. This was like my initial engagement with a bigger community initiative that I was a part of, and I know that it takes a lot of willingness to want to try and do more than your normal day-to-day routine. It really is. It is a mental mindset, and you have to want to. You can't be forced into it, even though I would have to say I was a bit forced into it when I first got started. But as soon as I got um, the introduction to to volunteer service and organizing with committees, I got addicted and I got hooked really fast. So from a young boy to where I wanted to help the world but didn't really know how to outreach and do anything and didn't have the outlets to do so, nor did my family really push me to do more than get a degree and find a job and be happy and be a good family member and this and that. I kind of came across this other way of life and this other way of giving back on my own means, and a teammate kind of forced me into it. But I guess if you have it, you have it. If you don't, hopefully you can get it and or have it. So I was lucky in the fact that I fell in love with doing more than the average with my life and trying to do more around the community. So I would have to say that I was very lucky that I was introduced to it at an earlier age, maybe not as early as it should have been, like in high school or this and that, where I tried to dabble with it a little bit in high school, but again, my friends weren't really a part of it, and it was kind of nerdy, and I just never really attempted to do much more until maybe my senior year. I went and got involved with student body, but that was nothing like my college career, where for about 3 out of my 4 years, I was heavily involved in extracurricular activities outside of studying and my athletics, which I had a very full-time role in being a student athlete because I was a collegiate scholarship athlete at a Division I level. So it was very demanding with travel and school and wanting to get good grades, and then you add on top of that a third facet where you're working in the community. And for me, I took more of leadership role, especially my last 2 years, where I was heading a lot of different initiatives like Operation Santa, where we gathered gifts from the local community and then distributed it to soldiers in Iraq at the time. So again, bringing that community closer together, bridging the gap from the sports to the homes, bringing us all together, and even the Pac-10, I got us involved, and we all got gifts donated, and we packed them all up. We came together one night, packed everything up, and raised the money, and we had shipped it all over to Iraq in time for them to have a Christmas. So we were coming together as a community in whole, but yet reaching out to people that were on the other side of the world. And again, this was something that I was really grateful and thankful for, that I had the opportunity to be a part of, and to even spearhead, where it kind of just continued to help me have the appreciation for people outside of my general community, and start thinking about others that are also in need in other places. And going back to having this mindset, it is very, very important to set your priorities straight, because if you do not do so, you will find yourself losing track of things, whether it be your personal life, your health, your personal health, relationships, this and that. When you start adding in extra activities that aren't necessarily your day-to-day life, but more so, you have to do one thing here and another thing the next week, and then slowly build up and progress to a point where it actually all comes together and is a success at the end of whatever endeavor you take on. All in the meantime, you're still got to deal with your work stress. You still got to deal with your whatever relationships you have to deal with to keep in touch with your friends, and or if you had to spend time with your significant other, if you're with somebody. All this stuff is very demanding, especially if you are a person that likes to give. And in myself, I give a lot, and it can take a lot of energy out of you. And I know one thing personally is actually a very interesting time that the Change School has approached me to do this, is because I've gone away from not so much giving and doing so much out in the community more, and now focusing on myself and my well-being in particular, because I am going through a bit of a hard time and a hard transition, and adapting to a lot of things going around. So right now, it is strictly a mental health and self care, habit building time transition that I am in right now, because I used to do a lot outside of my means, and now that I've, over the past couple years, have been so involved with my coaching, and my work with in the clean energy sector, I have now been able to couple dealing with many different types of people, because in coaching I deal with kids that are third culture kids, and that's an amazing experience and very fulfilling. They're just so lucky to be a part of this greater world, and to be around so many different cultures from all around the world. I find that a great experience for me to be a part of, to coach them in basketball, and I'm only a part of their lives a little bit, but I do have the appreciation, and I understand the kind of experience that they're getting at school at this very young level, where they're just soaking so much information up, whether it be through emotional intelligence or cultural understanding, and obviously their normal day-to-day classroom activities that they're going to learn from anyway. But just the other things outside, and then obviously the sports side, they're really getting a very holistic approach on life. And I'm very lucky to see this, and I understand it more now, being around many third culture kids now, that I'm now aware of this whole topic that I was completely unaware of growing up. And maybe only 2-3 years ago, I was really come across and understand and even meet and know and become close friends with these third culture kids, because me myself, I'm just a person that has traveled the world and been here, this and that, but not really can identify as being a third culture kid by any means of the word. Yeah, and then now, I'm quite lucky to be in the clean energy sector, where I do feel that this is part of the greater calling, of trying to help the world, as when I was a little boy, trying to do more than what I was about. And I think that I'm very lucky to have this opportunity to hopefully continue to help the world go from a dependent, fossil fuel based, kind of dirty way of living, or burning energy, to a cleaner, more sustainable, renewable way in dealing with solar energy. and hopefully in the future, figuring out ways to harness the solar energy and deal more with cleaning up of water. This is also a very big passion of mine that I've had for the longest time, and renewable water along with renewable energy. It's just that I've been lucky enough to come across a great opportunity with Solar Horizon to try and solarize not only just Singapore but now the region. And this is a kind of for me a greater calling that I hope will continue to spur on to do more for the world, obviously for the community around. But my main goal is to try to help and be a part of a world change and hopefully continue to be positive and boost things forward. So calling to action, I would say, come to what you like to do. What makes you you? For me, mental health and self care is a very important part of my life, and being positive about such things in a world of today where things are not so positive. And actually, there's a lot of negative going on, and that's what the media likes to focus on, is the negative, and the news that's out there is just so bombarding of not the best and most intelligent information, but yet there is so much information out there. If you cut through all the fat and you get to the main topics, you understand what is really important out there, and being able to handle all of this mentally it takes a very, very strong individual, because some people, when I get talking about real topics, they just don't want to talk about it. I don't know whether they're just not up for it, they're just not in tune to the situations and to the current events that are happening, but it just is something that I find very challenging to speak with people about trying to do more in this world, and if they don't have it in their time or their schedule, they just don't want to be a part of it. And I know that it takes a lot out of you to do so, and you need to be strong. You need to be mentally charged up. You need to want to be a part of more than what you've been doing on a regular basis. So I would say, for those out there really wanting to make a change, figure out how you can. It takes a little by little, whether it's just donating an hour of your time, and maybe you never have volunteered, maybe you've never done anything that required you to volunteer or be a part of some kind of initiative to help others. But I call for you to try to do so, try to find the time, try to find the mental capacity, because sometimes when you're dealing with these hard situations, it will wear on you. It will very much so wear on you. And like I said, this is a very interesting time for myself, because I have been doing so much that my time has now been very, very much taken away, where I've had to step back. And this is part of that mental health and self-care, where doing too much has been starting to wear on me. And now I need to figure out ways to encompass everything still, and not forfeit the opportunity to still help others, and try to find ways to give back a little bit outside of my jobs, because I do feel I already give back to these kids, and I also do feel like I'm trying to give back to the world, but at the same time I can still always do more. So that's kind of my problem, is that I always feel I can do more, and sometimes you cannot, and you just have to know when to draw the line, and it takes you to understand yourself to do so. And I will draw it at this point, where I appreciate you for listening. I hope some of you that have not had the opportunity to volunteer or do more than your basic daily routine to step up to the challenge, to take a look at yourself, to see what is it you're doing. Are you actually enjoying the life that you're living, or is it just okay? And do you want to do more? Because it's as simple as helping somebody else. No matter your religion background or what you believe in, spiritually or ethically, I believe we all know what is right and wrong, and we don't need to discuss that. But let's take it to the next step. Let's think about how we can go out and engage a needy background, or some kind of underprivileged background, where they can actually use somebody that has your skill set, or your smile, or your energy, your positive energy, and just be around them. And like I said, it can be very draining, especially if you go and you give food to those in need. And I've known people that have gone to the Philippines and have done stuff like that. to help feed those communities. And I've seen pictures, and it's very challenging, it's very hard, but it's the real world, and it's the world we live in. And how you can bring your resources to help others in need and in dire condition will make all the difference in the world, as cliche as that sounds. So again, I appreciate your time. Thank you for listening. I wish you all the best. Continue to be strong. Take care of yourself. Understand how and what makes you feel good. What is it? What do you need to do to stay strong and to be strong for others? And yeah, I mean, and it doesn't all fall on money, and and the good times and all that crazy stuff, especially in Singapore that we experience here. The life is so fast paced, and it's not all about your job and this and that. Like, slow down a little bit. Take a look at exactly what it is that makes you happy, what it is that makes you sad, and learn from the negatives. Enjoy the positives. The highs and the lows will come together. You got to find your yin and your yang, and live a balanced life. And I think for me personally, that's what it comes down to, is finding a balance, especially in a fast-paced, hectic lifestyle that I am currently living in, where I am working two different jobs, pulling me in two separate directions, and at the same time trying to find a little bit of time to still donate some time and help others. So with that said, I wish you all the best. Take care. TCK Summit, thank you again for listening. And I wish, I wish you guys all best, great on your journey forward. And hopefully, if anything, somebody can, find that hour or two once a month or once a year or once a quarter to go and do something that you enjoy, that's outside of your scope of work and or your fun daily life of whatever it is, maybe hanging out with friends, going out, drinking, whatever it may be. But trying to find, maybe you like to deal with dogs, maybe you like to work with kids, but you don't work with kids, but you can find an opportunity to work with kids. So I mean, there's so many things to do. Maybe you're a good cook and you can help feed others every so often. Maybe you're good at raising money for others. I don't know. But yes, thank you so much. Take care, and I appreciate your time.